Man, it's gonna be a hoot.
This is going to be great.
Dave is you're gonna love Dave. Dave is such a character. Oh
This is
my
going to
goodness.
be great.
Good morning, everybody. If anybody's here, I certainly hope there's somebody here. And if you're not here, you're missing out today. I'm telling you. We've already started in the back room. We've already been introducing and shake howdy and shaking hands virtually.
Well, Ian's here, maybe.
Well, he may have had to leave. He was here earlier.
I don't see Tina.
I don't see anybody else yet. Hopefully,
But it
there's
says,
Tina. Hi, Tina. Hi, Chuck.
good morning.
Oh my goodness. We
It's-
we have I don't know if I should say high royalty or low royalty. We have royalty in the
It's going
room.
to be some pumpkin today, I'll tell you.
It should be interesting, guys. I hope you enjoy this. I've been working on this for a while. I've mentioned both these gentlemen before. Mark, I've told Mark about them for years, and I just knew somehow I just had to get everybody together. So it worked out this week. Well, I've been working on this for the last 2 or 3 weeks, getting it lined up. But I got it lined up, and so I'm about to bring in. I'll introduce them when I bring them in, just in a moment. And
Dave's already had an invite to come fishing.
Dave's already lined up a fishing trip. I've never seen anything like it. Tina, that's low. You're probably right about that. Low royalty might be a lot more fun. And while Steve may or may not profess to be a hillbilly, he is. The two gentlemen, Dave Carroll is the one with the beard that's going to come in a minute. He's got a beard. He's from Kentucky, just north of me in the lower edge of Kentucky. And Steve was born and raised in the Oak Ridge, Clinton, Tennessee area, not far from here at all. But did his master's research, and he did his research in East Tennessee, but he went to school at Michigan State.
Morning, John.
Hey, John, welcome in, buddy.
You don't want to miss today's show.
Oh, John, if you can hang around for a little bit, you want to be here today, buddy. This is going to be. If you guys don't enjoy this, Mark and I are going to enjoy it. Let's put it that way.
We're going to have a good time.
So these two guys, if I can get them going, and I'm pretty sure I can. John's in Baltimore. I bet he's chasing golf balls.
He ought to slip west and go up on the river there and catch some smallmouth bass.
That would be good.
Up on the Potomac.
You get far enough up Potomac, there's supposed to be some good smallmouth fishing.
Really good smallmouth fishing. Anyway.
All right. Oh, Pete McDivitt meetup. Okay. I didn't realize that was this weekend. I know I've heard him talk about that. Okay, well, I'm going to bring these guys in. I've got a little bit of housework or housekeeping I'll do after I get everybody situated, just a little, and then we'll be off on a run, or at least the nearest thing we can to a trot. So hang on to your hats, folks. Welcome back to the room, Steve and Dave. We've got Mr. Steve Cottrell on your left and Mr. Dave Harrell on your right. With the frequent flyer shirt on. Did I hear an echo? No, I guess I'm good. Okay, we're good. Or maybe I did. Dave, say something.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud.
Yeah. Hey, good morning. I'd like to say hey to everyone out there in TV land. Do we still say that?
Yeah, you
It sounded good there for a moment. Okay.
Well, we say
Maybe
that.
computer land now.
Computer land. Yeah, maybe.
There's not a whole lot you can't say on here. Mostly, we try to keep it within some reason, but I slip occasionally. So just be.
We both slip occasionally.
Hey, there's Chris Nichols, Trout-Head. Dave, is that someone you know?
Oh, he's a good friend of mine. Chris and I met on the Clinch River one day. Water was coming up. He was coming out. I was coming out. We introduced ourselves, and we've been at it for a fair number of years. He's a good friend of mine.
Excellent. Tina, tons of fun. Orioles. Oh, you're going to go to an Orioles game, John? That'll be fun. That will be fun. Oh, bowling. He's out in the parking lot waiting on the rest of them to get there. Well, good for you, John. John, the surf bum. John is a friend who is retired from the Postal Service, but used to be out in Mark's country with the U.S. Air Force and the missiles and the silence and the U.S. missile people out there. He used to be a missile mechanic. Let me knock out my housekeeping. Everybody, just you're gonna get smaller for a minute, and then you'll get bigger. I just have one little bit of a presentation to do, or not a couple things I want to mention this morning, and then after that we'll be off on the trot. So let me make sure I don't, and bear with me because you guys know me. This can go afoul. But hopefully today, since I have visitors, I'll get it right. So there we go. This is just my lead-in, guys. I hope you got to see it. It's not really important now, but that's and Dave, I hope you picked up on that. Steve, I fully expect you to expound upon the interest of to the scientific community of the Wampus cat. And Dave, we're going to talk about hiders, buddy.
Okay. They're still out there.
I can't wait.
So please, if you can, if you're new to the chat or the show, hit the like button. If you don't like me, hit the unlike button. At least it shows that somebody came in. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. And in the famous words of Morris Thompson, a week or two of daily practice and good rabbit cover will get you well up towards successful shooting at this game. So Mark and I have been practicing shooting rabbits for years. He's a lot better at it than I am. Okay, I have one little bit of business I wanted to take care of. We lost
oh no,
my heroes from my youth and later. Commander Jim Lovell passed away Thursday, I believe.
Oh no.
And so just a quick rundown of who, in case you don't know, he was an American astronaut. He was a naval aviator, test pilot, and mechanical engineer. 1968. He was the command pilot for the lunar module on Apollo 8. You guys may recall that was just a mission to see if they could go out there and come back. And they circled the moon. So he, Frank Borman, and William Anders were the first three astronauts, and at least as far as we know, humans to fly around and orbit the moon. He was also the commander of the failed Apollo 13 mission, which didn't make it to the moon, but did circle the moon, which actually made him another famous person. He's the only person who ever circled the moon twice, or on two different missions, and didn't land on the moon. So, that wasn't, while we always consider that a success that we got those guys home. They had a pretty rough trip. Most of you remember that. If you didn't live through it, like some of us did, or I did, you probably saw the movie Apollo 13. But anyway, I was going to point out that that's what he's most kind of famous for. What they don't always talk about, though, is that he was also in the lineup to be one of the first 7 astronauts, but he was not selected. So, but they did pick him out for the next set of missions. So he flew both the Gemini and Apollo program. So he flew twice in Gemini, twice in Apollo. And let's see, he was one of 24 people to have flown to the moon. First one to go twice and not land. And for all that, he got the Congressional Space Medal of Honor, Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he co-authored the 1994 book Lost Moon, on which the 1995 film Apollo 13 was based. But anyway, so rest in peace, Jim Lovell, and safe trips. He can go out and fly around the stars now as long as he wants to.
Fair winds and following seas, buddy.
Yep, fair winds and following seas indeed. So now that that's done, so Dave, and I worked with these two gentlemen for nearly 20 plus years. Steve since about 1997. And then Dave, I met Dave, I think we're somewhere around 2000, but I'm not exactly sure when you came into our office, started working out. Well, you might have already been there and you just weren't working there, but that's how long I've known these two gentlemen. Dave and I have spent many hours in a boat on mostly Norris Reservoir here in East Tennessee. Mr. Cottrell and I spent quite a bit of time in a Jeep, whereas the senior officer of the group, he usually sat in the right seat and could talk and tell me stories while I did the driving. So from that position, I learned a lot of things. I'm going to tell you right now, I heard gathered a lot of good information. And so that's kind of what we're here to talk about today is some of those.
My first job in wildlife was with your outfit.
You know, there's a possibility that you crossed his path. Steve, Mark worked out at Land Between the Lakes in the early 90s.
No, it would have been 80. Let me think about this. 87, 88, somewhere in there.
And guess what?
I made a lot of trips out there.
Well, guess what he was out there doing?
Ain't no telling.
He was
the fallow deer. Did it have something to do with fallow deer?
He was counting Canadian geese.
Oh,
I was doing that. I was climbing trees up to eagle nests. I was picking up daggone deer that were full of ticks. I was all kind of stuff.
Mark, you were out there. Weren't you out there when they were working on or had just developed Permanone?
Yep, we were the test dummies. We all have leg cancer from it.
Good stuff.
We used to coat ourselves in that stuff.
Yeah, I finally learned after I quit using it. If you read the label, it says don't put it on your skin.
Yep.
It says put it on your clothes. Well, hell, we just bathed in it.
So did we, and it wasn't at that time. It didn't have a label that said warning.
Oh, maybe.
No, the label it has today is nothing like that original label. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
A green and yellow can.
Have you ever been to a place on the face of the earth with more ticks than LBL, Land Between the Lakes? That is incredible.
I sat there one day with him and we watched it. It's no joke. I've never even seen this before. All my years in the woods, I never actually seen a tick that wasn't on me somewhere. There were ticks crawling around in the grass and on the weeds. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, yeah.
My very first duty that I was assigned to when I started down there was walking transects through the woods, shooting high canopy songbirds. And the first bird I shot was a scarlet tanager, and I was holding it in my hand, And my boss said, you need 10 more on this transect, or you need 9 more on this transect. And I'm like, my granddaddy is going to come up out of his grave and get me for shooting songbirds.
Yeah.
He said, well, that's too bad. Get back to work. And all those birds that never even got on the ground all had ticks on them.
Wow.
Is that what they were studying? Was the tick problem on those birds, or?
Yeah, they were just looking at what ticks would attack, I guess.
Which is anything that's got warm blood in it.
Anything. Well, I've seen them on cottonmouths up there.
No, you're kidding.
No, they anything. It doesn't have to have warm blood. It just needs blood.
Well, I guess that's a good point. I never thought about them being on a snake, though.
I never saw them on like turtles or something like that.
Because they were underwater half the time or something, probably.
And just had too many leeches. So,
Steve, did you ever work? You never were assigned down there or anything for any period of time, were you? Out of Paris?
I worked down there quite a bit. I wish I could think of that boy's name that was in that all that tick study, and we'd put out these white cloths, and I mean in a few minutes they'd be covered.
Were they still, Mark? I think you've told me about that too.
they were doing all kind of weird stuff there. There was I can't remember any of their names, but
Morning, Brenda. Good morning, Diana.
There was a gal out of UK that was not out of the UK, but the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, down here that means the University of Kentucky, not
that was doing bobcat research, and we were always out, putting her sets in so she could do her bobcat research. And then mostly what I did was geese and eagles. And then I was the one wildlife intern there at the time, and they made me go out and pick up all the roadkills and take them up to the nature center to feed the whatever raptors they had there. And
you were in charge of skunk eradication too for a little while, weren't you?
I trapped all the campgrounds. I had a picture of the truck that they loaned me with I don't know how many 30 have-a-heart traps in the bed of the thing, and nobody would go around my truck because I had skunks in the bed of it all the time, and I had kicked over or somebody that was riding with me had kicked over a gallon jug of bobcat urine in the front seat.
No. Oh, man. That's what they were luring them into those. Weren't they doing like sand? They were checking.
We were putting these big circles of lime out and putting a pellet in the middle that was soaked in bobcat urine.
Yeah, to see what came in to sniff around.
Well, I don't mean to be. I'm gonna shut up now.
Ian said skunk eradication. What? Lifestyle sounds like you weren't you haven't lived situation. You hadn't lived till you trapped skunks out of a campground and at days on end. I promise you that, Ian. That's a guarantee. And there ain't nothing like skunk scent to wake you up.
Did you ever get sprayed?
Oh yeah. I've been getting sprayed my whole life, it seems like. My son and I almost got sprayed the night before his wedding.
Which would have been a good thing to have.
Which would have been the best thing ever, but
okay, Tina asked a question. She wants to know how you got the bobcat urine. You probably don't want to know. There's several ways that's been accomplished over the years. Mostly,
We got ours from Hallbakers.
yeah, they buy it. There's companies that sell it, Tina. Believe it or not, and you can buy skunk spray liquid also.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, they just put those critters in a cage, live ones in a cage, and then have kind of a funnel deal that collects
it. Yeah, they collect it. Yeah, they give the bobcats lots of water to drink. Ian said. That's pretty much how it worked, Ian. In a nutshell. I mentioned one time, well, years ago when I first went to work at TVA, I mentioned to Steve, and he probably won't remember this, but I'd mentioned that you were down there, like monitoring goose nests and counting eggs and that kind of stuff. And I'd said something about the introducing, geese back to the valley. So to speak, that's what I knew better. And Steve says, I don't believe I'd assume you didn't go around telling about that.
Yeah.
The goose thing had mixed, how do you put that? Mixed results, I would have to say, to put it.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. I can remember seeing the first 5 Canada geese I ever saw. They were in kind of a semi-V. And then within 2 decades, you had to kick them out of your way.
Yeah.
There's still a problem.
You've had to deal with a lot of geese on people's yards and golf courses, haven't you?
Yeah.
Diana asked a question. She would not want to know why in the world you would want skunk spray. Well, people put it on things to cover up human scent, like trappers and hunters.
Yeah.
Put it on your boots or put it around your trap site if you're a trapper. They use for different things, believe it or not. Tina says, I'll let the guys tell you, Diana. I'm sure there's a story attached. Well, yeah, there is, but and I don't know anybody that's deer hunted that hadn't spilled either skunk scent on all over their clothes or doe urine. Doe and heat urine was another thing that they used to collect, and it used as an attractant for the buck deer. And I know several people that dumped a whole bottle of that in their front of their truck before, and that is not a scent. You'd almost rather get sprayed by the skunk, to be honest. So it's a large combination of things. Dave, when I first met you, one of the things you told me about doing, I was going to bring this, just do a little bit of a trace here, but you worked at Cumberland. It's National Park, isn't it? Cumberland Gap National Park.
It is, and that is on. Just for reference, Tim, that is on. There is a place at Cumberland Gap National Historic Park where you can stand in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia at the same time. So, as a point of reference, that's where that park was, and I did my student internship there.
And I think you told me, didn't you tell me that you used to have to crawl around in the caves there and monitor for radon?
We did.
Duties, wasn't it?
We did. It was really neat. Big time karst area for caves, and had some historic perspective as well, and was used an early form of gunpowder, right?
Yeah.
Some of these caves, and we looked at bats back at that time, as well as radon sampling, and it was really, really neat. Kind of got me into spelunking, and the kind of critters that are in a cave. It was from beetles and different kinds of insects to a species or two of blind fish. We actually had some of that in the park. Really, really neat how different species evolve into total darkness.
Yeah.
Really interesting for a young fledgling wildlife biologist to get to see that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did
Steve,
you guys have those blind salamanders too, Dale?
Yes, sir. Yep. We had several species of salamanders too that we sort of kept up with.
Steve was the guy. Tennessee has a salamander kind of, I guess it's unique to most. I don't know where all we find it, but they found it in Tennessee first. The Tennessee cave salamander. And Steve wasn't the guy that did that, or was his name Pete Wyatt? Or at least he used to work with endangered species for the state of
Yeah, that was him.
He was an interesting guy. I got to work with him, hang out with him a couple of times while working with you, like up at Cherokee Lake. I say up, it's down here for me now. At the viewing areas and stuff down there. Pete was there because he was working in that part of TWRA by that time.
Yeah,
he was a neat guy.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I know if everybody else isn't waiting, I know Mark is sitting there on pins and needles, but I've got to ask you a question. I want you to tell him the story how you came across the sociology from a sociological standpoint of hillbilly life, the hider.
The hider. So southeast Kentucky, where I grew up, and I first heard. Now hiders. Let me be just completely clear here. That's my term, but there's a phenomenon in southeast Kentucky. I first heard it from my mother. So my mother said when they were kids, her mom and dad, my mom had 4 older brothers. So they would go to my mom's aunt's house, who also had 5, 6, 7 kids, right? But you never could find them. They'd go there for Sunday dinner and the kids would hide. And my mom was always, I mean, these are nephews, one that, nephews and niece and one to play and in the yard and so forth, but you had to go find them. And one or two might be under a bed, another one in the outhouse. They'd be hid all over the place. So,
and these are kinfolk. They're not strangers. These are kinfolk.
Kinfolk, but nonetheless, there was something in their genetic makeup that they wanted to hide from people. So fast forward, my father was a Baptist minister, so it's southeast Kentucky, and so you families would ask the preacher and his family over for Sunday dinner right after church, and I saw it time and time again. You'd go there, you knew there were so many members of the family, but most of them hid, and their mother would take them food out to somewhere, wherever they were hiding, but you never saw them. So, but the funniest, if I may take just a moment, funniest story, I had a buddy years ago working on his master's thesis, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. His job, he had a little mini bike, right? And he'd trailer it up, start this thing up, and he'd go up the roads in Great Smoky Mountains National Park looking for bear scat. Okay, That's what it was. So he goes up through, and it was through, there was houses along the way, and never saw anybody out. But he'd see the swing set still moving, or the car was started, but the lawnmower was running in the yard, but nobody was there, right? They heard him coming. Well, he goes up and does his study. He's up on top of the mountain. And the mini bike wouldn't start. He's like, well, I got to roll this thing down just ride it down the mountain without the motor. Well, they didn't hear him coming. He actually saw hiders. And what he would see is what he saw them, they saw him, and they'd freeze. In mid-step, like, oh no, we're caught. They would just freeze. So there is some. I know people look for Sasquatch and all that kind of stuff, but this hider, finding a hider in motion or almost in motion. Many people can't say that, but we do have a mutual friend that actually snuck up on him. It's a rare feat.
And you had another, I believe, your own experience where you were moving your furniture back home from school or something, and you had
right. My poor job of loading a truck, a table fell off the back. So by a house again, you didn't see anybody. So I have to go up a little curvy road. I had to go up a ways to get turned around to go back to get my table. Well, my table disappeared right from the middle of the road. It was gone. And nobody was to be found. So somewhere out there is a hider using my table, but I never got to document seeing that hider that took my table.
Dave, that table's probably been passed down now as a family heirloom. I about bet you.
Right. How true.
It reminds me of the undocumented aliens down on the border, like in the Southwest, the UDAs we called them. They're like quail. They can be a Gambel's quail. They'll run across the road in front of you one after another, but then if you get too close to them, they become a Mearns quail and they just like sprawl out and lay down.
Mark had some experience with that 35 years ago or more when he lived in a part of New Mexico where there wasn't hardly anybody except at night, and then there were a few people wandering through the territory
eating my turkeys.
Well, Dave, Mark and I are both from Appalachia also, but not from Eastern Kentucky, and we have discovered by talking to people for the last ever since you told me about this, I realized many things about my life. But we've talked about this a lot in southern Ohio and parts of Virginia and West Virginia and East Tennessee, North. Hiders are I believe hiders are an Appalachian thing by and large. I don't think there's probably different subspecies in various states, which might affect hiding locations or ability to escape in an emergency. But I never thought about it till after we talked, and years later, I was telling somebody about some of my relatives, and I remembered something, Dave. I used to go over and run with my cousins all the time, and we might be out riding ponies, or we might just be running through the woods and doing whatever we did as kids. But I realized that every time a car would go down the road or something, they'd say, "Hurry, quick, hide!"
Get in the woods.
And they'd all drop down into the weeds. And I never understood that until now. And I finally figured out that I've got hiders in my family and didn't even know it.
It's a genetic trait. I know I have hid I have hid before when I was on somebody's place looking for ginseng or mushrooms or something.
Yeah, but you don't even have. That's the thing. We weren't even trespassing. We'd be standing in Grandma's front yard, and we'd all drop down behind the iris bushes or something. I mean, it was just. I never, never understood that.
And they couldn't explain why. I'm like, why are we hiding? Well, because that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, Dave, we should have asked for money and done a study on this on our own. We could even do that today. Get us some funding and go out and do a study on hiders. We could spend the rest of our lives doing that just to try and probably never come to the final answers.
The Shawnee are coming, or the Cherokees are coming. You got
maybe it goes back to that. I don't know.
We would spend a lifetime trying to find one, and if we were to outsmart them and trap them somehow, how would we get information out of them? They don't talk.
That's a good point. They don't like to talk. You'd probably have to imagine a big catch alive trap. It'd probably be about the size of say an outhouse. In fact, an outhouse might have been a good way to catch them back when I was a kid. These days that might not happen, but you could put up a cage and put out there free moon pies or something inside. The door would slam shut, and you could discuss it with them. Steve, do you think that?
I think you're onto something there, Tim. I think an RC and a moon pie, you sit it out there and then be a hider to catch a hider, right?
I guarantee you that'd be the way to do it.
Yeah.
It takes a hider to catch a hider.
No one. That's what they always told me when I was a kid. Oh, merciful heavens. We have interesting people in this part of the world, as all places do, but there's something about hillbillies or Appalachian people that tend to be just a little bit different. Steve, I want you to tell me a story about one time when you and Wes James were trying to find I believe you were trying to find a nesting site for vultures.
Ooh.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you run into a really unique family or group of families.
Well, there was this little area right at the base of the Cumberland Mountains. It's called Frost Bottom.
Frost Bottom.
Yeah, and there's just one highway up through there. And that's where they had the long neck and short neck harnesses. And
Let me clear something up. The harness name in this case is not something you put on a horse.
no,
It's a family name.
family name. And
Long neck and short
there
neck.
was a long neck strain and a short neck strain. And you could tell it when you looked at them. And anyway, we had this old boy work for us one summer. His name was Bobby Louie. That's all I know of his name. And
My ribs hurt.
anyway, me and Wesley was wanting. He said something about a vulture's nest. Of course, we perked up. Both of us said, we ain't never seen no vulture's nest. And Bobby Louie, he was a short neck harness. And he said, I can take you up, show you one. We were like, oh, hell. He said, yeah. So we went over it was on that road over by Oak Ridge or Milton Lake Drive or whatever you want to call it. And you go down that road to the rock quarry. And So we went down there and pulled over the side of the road. And he said, well, where is it? And he said, it's right up there at the top of that ridge. And we thought, okay. And so Bobby Louie, he got out. And he put him two Budweiser tall boys in his pockets. One in each pocket. Bobby Louie didn't go nowhere without cold beer. And so we started up that mountain. And him drinking that beer, and he about killed me and Wesley.
Trying
Me
to
and
keep.
Wesley were in good shape back then, you know.
Yeah, you guys used to run on for
Yeah. He drained them beers. And we got up there, and dang if it wasn't kind of in a overhang, almost a little cave. And there was two eggs in there. And all kinds of stuff, little glass bottles, you know. Remember them that used to be blue?
Yeah.
Antique bottles in there with it. And I've always heard that vultures would do that. Anything shiny or like
Do you
that.
know, were these black vultures or turkey vultures?
Don't know. Just saw the eggs.
Yeah, black vultures, I know do that. I've seen them pick up stuff.
Well,
They're
they,
kind of interesting critters.
yeah, it had all kinds of paraphernalia in there. And so, of course, you couldn't hardly find the darn thing. We're standing right there, and there's a little wall. I mean, just like built into the hillside. It looked to me like it was a place, you know, where they had a still.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good possibility.
Yeah. And of course, old Bobby Louie, he knew right where it was at.
Yeah. And he was short neck, right? Did you ever
Yeah,
know
he
him
was-
long
he
neck?
was-
Short neck harness.
No, ain't no long neck.
I don't think they got along.
Yeah, that's what
Short neck or long neck.
I think Wes told me he didn't think they did either.
But
The vulture drugged in, Brenda said.
the boys was a mess.
Was it you that told me? Were you the one that told me the story about going to Nashville? It might be a whole nother group of people, but and they had an intern or summer seasonal worker or something that wore coveralls and cowboy boots, and they went to Nashville. And they ended up at the Kit Kat Club, which back in a long time ago, just to clarify, was a gentleman's club, let's say. And he ended up on stage dancing in nothing but his cowboy boots. Was that you?
Yeah,
See that?
yeah. What was his name?
Thought so.
Yeah, he got up there. Of course, he'd been drinking a little bit,
Just tiny.
probably a lot more than a little. And they had these strippers up there.
Because that's what the Kit Kat Club did. Just
Yeah, and Kenny Bolin, that's what his name was.
yeah, that's right.
And he got up, they got him up there. Them women did. And jerked down his britches. Of course, he didn't care.
He was past caring, I'm thinking.
Yeah, he was having a great time. Of course, Kenny was always a little bit on the wild side, anyhow. And they said that's the funniest thing they ever seen. Him walking around with his breeches down around the top of his cowboy boots.
You told me about a guy that you had working for you up on the river one time. That William, and he got in a big party that they were having. The fish heads used to like to, drink a cold beer or two at night when they'd gather. And
Oh,
you guys got invited over with a bunch of them guys in a hotel somewhere. You had to stay. You always told me that your boss always had you a little trailer to live in when you went out on missions on the road back.
Oh,
in the day.
yeah. They'd go rent the whole, top floor of a Holiday Inn.
Always reminded me of you, Mark. He had a little bitty, either a little bitty trailer or a little bitty cabin. That's where he had to stay. It's kind of like your little shack in the Palencios.
That was
Yeah.
the Cowans burnt that down after I left.
Oh, did they?
Yep. It wasn't intentional. They had a grass fire get away from it, and it went across that Cienega and burned that little cabin down, which was too bad.
I spent a few nights in that little cabin with the mice and the whatever else was crawling around in there.
I caught 72 deer mice in one night.
72. Oh my!
I had like a dozen traps, and I'd set them, and as soon as I'd walk out the door.
Oh man!
Well, anyway, we went up there to visit him, at the Holiday Inn, and of course. There was a lot of them smoking the devil's lettuce. And
You had that back then.
Yeah.
and I had this old boy that was working the summer for me as an intern. His name was Patrick.
Patrick, that's right, not William. Patrick.
And I had to watch him like a hog. Like I said, he got into that devil's lettuce. And I'd look around, I'd say, "Where's Patrick?" And say, "I don't know. We seen him running off over that field over there. It's all grown up, I went out there and got him. He was like a hider. And he'd get up there. I'd say, "Patrick, get back over here. We're going to have to leave in a little bit." And I'd turn around again, and he was gone. He'd get out in that field, a bunch of grass and broom sedge and everything. And he'd just hide. He'd go out there and curl up. I never got him reined in.
Yes, Steve had to get him. He was kind of responsible to get him back to where he's supposed to be the next day, and back to the.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was helping me, and we had data to collect.
Yeah, right.
But boy, he just he was a mess.
Yeah, these kinds of things happen from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, are you saying the devil's nettle?
Lettuce.
Oh, devil's lettuce.
Devil's lettuce.
Devil's lettuce.
Yeah, he liked that pretty good. One time I had him up on the Holston lower end there. We just started putting up those Osprey Nexus structures.
Oh yeah.
And we put them up on a telephone pole.
Yep.
And have a big old platform up there like a pallet.
I got one not too far from the house down here on a pole now.
And he'd climb up on them things. How he got up that pole, I don't know. And then he'd sit on that platform and meditate or something.
He just go climb up on one, huh?
I don't know how he got up there, but he did. And he just sat there.
Hey, puppy.
I got a hider. Actually, he's Barker.
He's pure barker, I can tell you that. That's a grizzly bear, in case you guys don't know it.
Ursus horribilis teeny tiny-ensis right here.
He thinks he's a full-grown brindle colored grizzly bear. And that's a good question about the
Gene
gentleman.
Ledbetter on that dog.
I never really understood why they referred to them as gentlemen's clubs either, except because there wasn't nothing about gentlemen in them, I'll tell you.
Hell no.
I'll tell a quick story on myself about that. I knew I was in trouble one time. This is before I knew you guys. I went to working on airplanes. You get sent to a school once in a while. And I got sent to Kansas one time to go to a class, and it was a 2-week class, which meant in the middle of that thing, you had 2 days off with nothing to do. Most of the time, they didn't give me a rental car. And these guys that I was in class with said, "Come on, we're going to go down to this club." And what kind of club? Well, it's topless. He said, it'll be fun, And on the first way I knew I was in trouble was we had to stop along the way to buy beer, and they would only sell you 3-2 beer. They wouldn't sell you high test beer or regular beer like we had back here. It was only 3-2, nothing higher, because that's all you could take into the gentleman's club. And you had to take your own beer to get. If you wanted beer, you had to take your own with you. And I knew I was in trouble when I got there, and there was chicken wire up all around the stage and the band that was playing. There was a band playing, and it was all covered by chicken wire. And I said right then, I told one of the other guys, I said, I think I'm going to stay back here, and, I'll be ready to go back to the hotel just anytime. And, I've never been into a chicken wire. So wasn't nothing gentlemanly about that, I'm going to tell you. But it was quite interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things I got into was down in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah. That was
Down
a Wildlife Society trip, wasn't it?
yeah.
They used
And
to
it
get
was down in
And they never go bad.
New Orleans is where it was.
Oh, God.
And me and Wesley got to go down there for some conference. And so we got on the aeroplane and took off. And we didn't get to sit together. So I sat down, and there was this young lady sitting beside me. And that was after I'd got divorced. And so I was on the prowl. And
He's on the
You
prowl.
still are. What's this past tense talk?
but anyhow, I was sitting beside her, and that was back. I don't know if they do it now, but they'd serve you drinks
Oh, I don't know if they do now, but yeah, they used to.
on the aeroplane.
Yeah.
And but you had to pay for them.
Yeah, well,
They
true.
Oh,
still do.
But I sat beside this young lady, and she had a little, looked like a little gym bag, carry on. And I got to talking with her, and I said, well, you want me to order us a drink or something? She said, no. I said, why? And she said, I got what we need right here. And she unzipped that bag and pulled out a big old bottle of dang Jack Daniels.
Oh my, she brought her own.
So we started, she said, just order a cup of ice. And I did. So we drank on that Jack Daniels quite a bit. And
Knoxville to New Orleans.
on our way to New Orleans. And I said, well, where are you staying? You know, I was trying to talk me some up. And she told me somewhere, she said, well, I'm staying down there at this bikers club.
Oh,
And I said, well, maybe I'll come. How about if I come down there and see you? She looked at me, she said, they'll kill you. Okay.
Fair enough, right?
enough said.
So I dumped that idea.
Was
So
that
me and
one-
Betsy got on, we finally got there to New Orleans. And we was, of course, going to go buy some liquor or beer. And we couldn't figure out, there was no package stores or nothing.
Yeah, that was a no.
And finally I asked somebody. They said, what do you mean? They said, it's everywhere. And you could just go in a drugstore anywhere and buy what you wanted. And so anyway, we wandered around down there and met old Ed Beto. He wasn't working for TVA then. He'd done transferred over to the whatever he was with, Bureau of Land Management or something.
BLM. Yeah.
And
He ended up out your way, Mark.
anyway, he
Working for the BML.
yeah, and we were trying to get hooked up with him. And finally we found him. And he said, boys, and down there in New Orleans, they don't care. You can walk around down the street, drinking beer, liquor, whatever you want, as long as it's not in a glass bottle.
A hurricane.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The only reason they don't want you having it in the glass bottle is because they don't want anybody breaking them and cutting each other.
Yeah. So we finally found Ed. And he was by himself. And he said, boys, I found the cheapest beer around. We said, oh, okay. And so he took us down the street a ways and down this little old bitty alley.
No, they never good.
No. Well,
That's a sign.
now I ain't lying. There was a dang spigot coming out of a brick wall.
I think Dave's told me this too before.
Yeah, and
It's like a magic trick. You just turn it on and there it is. It kind of civilized. I wish my house had one of those. You could just meter it and pay a monthly fee.
yeah, there was a little place
Yeah.
there. You just put your money in.
Yeah.
And I said, Ed, where's that beer coming from? It might be coming from the dang toilet. He said, yeah, but it's cheap.
There are times in life when cheap really is important.
Yeah, he was a mess.
But it's cheap. Dave, I think you told me about I've never been to New Orleans, but you have. You said the same thing. It was just you could walk up and pull a tap and get you a mixed drink or a beer. My daughter goes down there occasionally, and one night I was talking to her on the phone. They were down there for Mardi Gras, but her husband is from outside kind of the edge of town, and she said, yeah, we're going to go down here to the drive-through daiquiri place and get us some daiquiris. We'll be back in a minute. I said, wait a minute. Say that again. And she said, yeah, we can drive. They've got a drive-through down here where you can get daiquiris.
Yeah.
And I said, I know, why have I never been there? I mean, I don't understand that.
Very, very civilized.
And they had a drink down there called the Hurricane. And buddy, that'll knock your hat right off your dang head and other things.
Was that where you guys got into the Wampus Cat hunt, or was that another?
No, that was up on the Columbia River. We was up there, when they were going to build that dam.
Oh yeah, that's not Columbia River as in out west. This is in Middle Tennessee, basically.
Yeah. And I think it was the Columbia, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ducks.
The duck
They're
River.
over
It was
there.
on the duck.
Going to be a dam,
Yeah.
but never quite happened. Yeah, yeah.
And
They actually started it and then quit, I think.
Which is why
Yeah.
you can still catch good smallmouth there.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that was an adventurous place. And we went to launch the boat one day. Well, we did. We worked at night.
When
Counting
you're in the
wildlife
wildlife
and stuff.
business, you do a lot of night work. Huh?
Night. And so one day we didn't have nothing to do during the day. And we went up. And this old boy, I got to know, he was a landowner. And I believe his name was Newt Cooper. And he told us about the Wampus Cat. And he liked me and Wesley for some reason.
Hard not
In this
to.
part of the world, you've heard somebody that knows about a Wampus Cat.
Yeah, and we said, well, what is it? And he said, well, near as we can tell, it's a cross between a groundhog and a wildcat. Well, we couldn't stand it. So we had time during the day, since we was working the night shift.
What?
And
Oh,
we went chasing that thing for about 2 days. And everywhere we went, it was, well, have you seen it? Well, no, but my brother has. And then you go talk to his brother and say, no, I hadn't seen it, but my sister has. And then it was, no, talk to her. No, it was my cousin.
That's the thing around here. There are these mysterious
creatures.
creatures that
Mhm.
I hear about a lot growing up, and I was I'm lying, I'm dying. I've been hearing about Wampus Cat since I was knee high to my daddy.
Yeah.
But nobody ever seems to be able to produce one. So if you're a wildlife scientist, you're interested in these phenomena.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to be able to, prove them or disprove them. But
Yeah.
you ain't never get any evidence either way.
We're pretty curious about it. We never did find it.
Across between a wild cat and a groundhog.
Right. Doesn't mean they're not there. I tell you, guys, it's been a career, has it not? I mean, we could have majored in other stuff, right? I mean, like things that made money. Like the rest of the college population. No.
Let's go.
Went off here and
Let's go into this business.
how you get paid. I was a seasonal park ranger, right? Big South Fork National River Recreation Area. And again, from where I'm at, never been anywhere west of the Mississippi. Really didn't know much about the world. And 1988 happened to be Yellowstone National Park was on fire.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's right.
they needed people, right? And I convinced my chief ranger, look, I'm your guy. You've got to send me. I'm the guy. And he said, well, we have to send somebody, and nobody else. It was by default. I got to go, right? And off I went. Never been to an airport. Never been on an airplane. Off I go to Yellowstone, and it was on fire. And you had to. We used a guy picked us up in a pickup truck, right, to get us into the park. We had to cut trees that were on fire in the road just to get to where we were going. And Old Faithful Lodge was about to go up, and so we gathered around there, dug line, did this and that. And I thought somewhere in the middle of the night, I thought, I'm actually getting paid to do this. Right? It's that kind of,
the last year of McLeod.
Well, the thing is, I actually had that same phenomena at TVA at one point. I was out on Norris Lake in a Boston whaler. I was working, but riding around in a boat on a beautiful lake, and I was getting paid for that. And I thought, wow, this is pretty damn special. Now, I'm not saying that we were getting paid a lot. We weren't in those professions at college. Those were all on the other side of the road. that wasn't. I mean, I don't know how many people I had tell me over the years, well, you probably can't make a lot of money that way. Why would you want to do that? So it's something you kind of got to want to do, or you wouldn't be doing it to begin with. But every once in a while it hits you that you're out in the woods, or you're out, even if you've got ticks all over, you're still kind of.
Oh, buddy, we had some characters. Dan, tell them about the bug-eyed beaver.
Yeah, we worked with some of the most, like Tim said, to go, and I was with Tim on this whaler, and we'd start early in the morning, and we'd be going across Norris Reservoir, and the water was like glass. We were the only people, and I just thought, man, this is great, and especially the job, but more importantly, it was just Tim and I. We could talk about books. We could talk about what we're reading. We were reading, Tim and I together, running all over the place. Least Heat Moon. We'd trade books back and forth. A book called I say Travels with Charlie was one. And all of this and talking about that and going across 809.2 miles of shoreline. Not that I'm counting, but we did the entire expanse over about a 2-week period. Every inch of shoreline, right, Tim?
Yep.
They don't even do that anymore. That was quite that was every year, and it was quite the experience. But not always did Tim and I get to go together. We had a senior land use person, and her directions were always a bit off, and so. We launched one time at a marina, and I'm reading the map, right? This was in the day you had hard copy maps, so I had the map. I'm following. Thank goodness, I'm following with my finger. I'd still be out there lost with her. But,
Was it Terry?
Lyndon, but I'm not mentioning names.
Not to mention
But, we'd come out, and she would go the wrong way in the harbor to the back of the harbor. It was summertime. People were sitting on their boats, and we'd say, "Hey, good morning," and then take a wrong turn and go right back past them again. "Hey, good morning." And I'm like, are we ever going to get out of this harbor? I mean, it's that way. We need to get to open water here. But it was a bird enthusiast. And knew something. And
she was a smart person.
I had to do the map. She had to drive. There was rules. So she's driving the boat.
She said she got sick.
I wasn't allowed to drive the boat.
Yeah.
And so
she
drove
the car.
And we're just heading right to the bank. I thought, we're starting to get close. I'm wondering, when are we going to let off the throttle? Well, I turned around, Boston Whaler, right? You're sitting in the middle. I turn around. Her hands aren't on the steering wheel. She has binoculars and looking at a bird, and we're heading straight. Well, what we're headed into is a beaver dam, and this beaver popped up. I have to find this picture. Honestly, you all seen the picture.
I have seen the picture.
This beaver, and its eyes were this big, like they're going to run. And we just about did. We got all tangled up in this beaver lodge and the boat, and it was like. So there was getting paid for days like that too. So it was
wasn't that the time that when you guys were entangled up in that tree and the beavers and didn't Linda, I mean that person who shall remain nameless.
Right.
Didn't she turn around then and say, "Oh, beavers are nocturnal, you know."
Until you run over one, and then it was in the middle of the day, and so I snapped a Polaroid picture of this beaver with his eyes this big, looking right at us like.
And I've seen that picture.
Oh yeah, it's a great one. So there's those moments too. We worked with some characters over the years. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's the kind of person who might be, let's say, has to cross a large stretch of property with a gate, and somebody gets out of the vehicle to open the gate, and the driver goes through the gate. Now, normally you would stop and wait, and they close the gate, and you'd get back in. But in this particular case, that person just went zoom and didn't come back until I guess the meeting was over or something, and realized that the guy that was supposed to be with her was standing up there at the gate post.
That was George Humphrey.
Yeah.
George. That he just stood there. It's like the phone she drove off, so he just stood there and waited.
Yeah, she was pretty scattered.
We launched a boat one morning. Of course, she had to drive. That's fine. But forgot to put the drain plug in. So we hadn't gone anywhere, and I'm sitting there. My feet's getting wet. I thought, why is my feet getting wet? Well, water was coming on. There, I said, Linda, the drain plug's not in. We need to run up on this boat lift at the marina, and paralyzed in fear. And I said, Linda, we've got to act. And so anyway, we got that taken care of. Two guys sitting at the marina on a park bench, and this person, I've now mentioned the name, but this person went over there and said, Hey guys, if you wouldn't mind, please don't repeat what you just saw here. Oh no, we wouldn't. Oh no, we wouldn't say a word. Oh, thank you. This is kind of embarrassing. So off we go. We've gone all day doing what we're doing. We come back, load the boat up, go to the office. A dear friend of ours, Shelley Cook, who TVA couldn't run without her. But we walked in after being on the water all day, and she says, forgot to put the drain plug in. Those two guys, before we could get out of the harbor, called Shelley and said, yeah, there's a real situation out here today. Everybody in the office knew what had happened. It was, you guys, please don't. Oh, no, we wouldn't say a word about we weren't out of sight. They called the office and said, boy, you wouldn't believe. And so, yeah, they sold us out.
And just to clarify for a minute, if you ever spend any time around country boat docks and that sort of thing, those two guys of different names and perhaps they're always around. There's always those guys that are going to rat you out and tell everybody they know that they saw the federal agency boat go halfway underwater before they can get it, get the boat plug put in. Cause I mean, those guys, there's always those guys there somewhere. I promise you. I never been to one where they wasn't sitting out there on either a bucket or a park bench or,
Yeah.
They know everybody and everything, right?
Yep, they sure do. And like he said, they knew the very number to call and report. Because I remember because we all knew it before you even got back to the office. I mean, we knew it long before. Oh, merciful heavens. What a deal. What a career. That made me think of something now. I forgot what I was going to say. I don't know if it had to do with her or not. I probably didn't. But out on the water like that, you never quite knew what you might run into or not run into, or who you were going to meet, or who you were going to. They may not remember this one, but we got sent out one time on a property dispute issue, which we got caught. That's one of the things we had to do a lot because we own most places on that reservoir, at least we own a certain amount of land. We owned everything under the water and a certain amount up above the water. But then they sold off some property a long time ago, and houses would get built right down, almost on our property. And then the reason everybody comes to the lake is they want to have a boat and a boat dock and a boathouse. And, they got to have all the amenities to live on the lake. So you're always going out there because my boat dock or that guy's boat dock's on my property, which wasn't their property. It was our property, federal property, yours and mine. But they still called it theirs because they live back there. So we're standing there one day and we're out in the middle of the country. Now, this is a time when we didn't have cell phones, or if we did, you'd have to go up on a hill somewhere to call back because they didn't work. You remember those old bag phones we used to have? Those things wouldn't even make a good boat anchor.
Right.
But we're standing there and these two guys are discussing the fact that one of them's wanting to put a boat dock and the other one just, by God, don't want him to have one because it's going to be in front of his house or his property. And we're like, now listen, guys, he owns this and you own that, and we own all of this. So we have the final say in what you do. And one of them just stood there just as calmly as he could say, and he said, I do carry a 38 in my pocket at all times. And I'm like, Dave, and I'm like, say that again. Dave he just skips right over it. Dave was always so cool in these kind of crisis periods that he could just work it. Did we lose Mark?
No, I'm here. I got dogs barking.
Oh, okay. Dave's just standing there, and he just goes right on by. And I said, now, wait a minute. I think I heard a threat. and so we kind of worked our way out of that. And same thing. One day, Dave and I are standing in the office, and we're looking at a map or something with a guy that came into the office. And this guy, they were having a dispute, and one of the guys that I believe that was in the dispute had always told us that he used to be the Ohio State pistol champion. He always let us know that up front. But another guy was in there that day, Dave, and he said something about, now we're back here, there ain't no police around or anything like that. And this guy says, he said, I just about shoot a fella for that. He said, I carry a gun all the time. I'll just let him know. That's back before concealed carry was a known thing. It's just everybody, all these old guys just carried something in their pocket. And Dave's like, I hear a lot of talk about people shooting each other, but I don't ever see anybody do it. He said, you want to, somebody ought to do it. I mean, I'm like, Dave, shut up. What are you doing? And Dave
Tim,
he's just talking, and this as calm as he can be. And I'm like, holy crap, this guy's going to kill all of us.
not Tim, because when I said that, Tim went under the desk as quickly as Tim's ever moved. Tim just shot past us both and went for cover.
That might not be totally accurate. Don't make me look too bad, Dave. That guy, and later, if you remember this, Dave, we went up front. That's when the other lady worked the front desk. Shelly was there, but there was somebody else we had that worked the front desk.
And he scared her with that kind of talk.
Police involved before, and she said, he's not supposed to be here without a police escort.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you could have led with that, we might have avoided this other situation.
If I'd have known that, I might not have said what I said.
I hear a lot of people talking about shooting one another, but I don't ever see anybody do it. And I'm thinking, this guy don't need to be dared. Oh, me. What a mess.
So which county did you grow up in, Dave?
I was in Barberville and Pineville.
Barberville and Pineville.
So not too far north from here. I mean, 60 miles or something.
North of Middlesboro. Yeah. So,
because my people all grew up in Greenup County and Carter County and northeast part of the Kentucky.
Yeah, Mark, when he wasn't in Tennessee, Montana. Mark lived in southern Ohio. That's where his dad and mom were from originally. But he had a lot
but all their parents were from northeast Kentucky.
Yeah.
And that's where they're still, you can't chuck a rock in that country and not hit one of my relatives.
No, and at the time, and my family as well, there was no work, and people would go to Dayton, Ohio, and Michigan. People were hungry. People needed a job, right? And when somebody got a job, one of these places, then they moved the family up, right? So there was this great migration. And so many people came eventually made their way back to here. But yeah, tough sledding here for quite a
My
while.
great aunt's place, you had to drive almost 3/4 of a mile up the creek, in the creek, to get
Yeah.
to her house.
Yeah, and so I went to a place at my seasonal law enforcement training right out of college. I ended up in a place called Nelsonville, Ohio.
Oh, I went to school there.
Yeah. Oh, Hawking Tech. It was
Yep.
Tech back in the day. What a program! So I was there for a
World it is.
month, and it was just like you think, well, Ohio, but it was just like being here, right? It was the Hawking Hills. People were just like us. I mean,
Yeah.
you're out. No, it was very, very similar to here, and really a neat little college. Did the seasonal law enforcement training, and the group next to us, we'd go in there and watch them on our break, where were students learning taxidermy. And that was real cool.
Yeah.
It was a neat hands-on school. Yeah, did a
We
good
had the
job.
only operational sawmill in the United States on a
Oh.
college campus.
That-
What happened to us, Tim?
Good memory,
What
Mark.
did I do here? Hang on a minute. What am I
Now
doing?
it's all about Tim. Oh, there we go.
I
Yeah.
hit the wrong key there somewhere.
Good memory, Mark. They had this thing. People came from near and far. The Paul Bunyan Festival. Mark, I bet Mark was right there in the middle of
I've
that.
been to it many times. That's the first place I ever got to see. There was a couple wildlife technicians that worked for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources that came there to demonstrate to us students how to use a rocket net. And they set that rocket net up, pointed towards the Hawking River across to the north from the school. And they forgot to tire down.
Oh no.
It was a rocket net, not a cannon net. And they touched that thing off, and away she went for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards. Went all the way across, and it landed in those great big old hardwoods right on the river. The whole net and all the rockets landed in those trees. And I don't know if they ever did get it back.
Steve, you probably used that gathering. You used to have to wrangle geese at some time, didn't you? Also,
Well, I started out with cannon nets,
Cannon nets, yep.
and then they went to using rocket nets.
And we used to drive around with that stuff on our pickup truck floorboard.
oh yeah,
explosives.
All these explosives, like a lot of explosives.
oh yeah.
Oh Lord, that makes me think of something else. You way back before, and pretty 20, 30 years back before 9/11 happened. You used to be able to go to even not even that far, but farmers used to go down to the co-op or down to a hardware store, and they could buy dynamite to blow. Wait a minute. What did I do? They could buy dynamite to blow stumps and stuff with, Now, Steve, you told me a story one time about a wetland area that was on Douglas Lake, not too far from where I'm at, called Rankin Bottoms, and you guys were doing something that they used to call blowing potholes.
Yep.
Tell us about that little adventure, because I think something interesting happened there too.
Well,
Well,
it was Rankin Bottoms, and back when they drew the lake down more, it was just a big giant mud flat.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of acreage. And I got this idea. I'd been reading up on it, and I was going to blow some potholes for, you know, waterfowl. And so anyway, I was going to get me some ammonium nitrate and, you know, and soak it in diesel fuel and all that. Then I don't know why somebody said, why? Just hire this blasting company. Because there used to be a lot of them around back when they were doing coal mining.
Yeah, you could
In
find
this area. And so I hired this old boy. And he come up in there with a big old tater chip truck. And full of dynamite. And we went down there, and I told him, showed him where I wanted to go, and I told him, you know, Rankin Bottoms, before there's an old railroad bed there.
Yep.
there's a
You
tipple.
know,
There was a tipple there at one time. Wasn't
Yeah, tipple. And I told him, I said, stay on that railroad bed. Because it was hard packed. And you could drive up and down it all you wanted. And well, what did he do?
Went out there to the
He
mud.
drove off the railroad bed. And son, he sunk that dynamite truck to the frame.
Yep.
And
Tater chip truck,
it
buddy.
it took us forever to get him out of there.
And it full of dynamite.
It full of dynamite. And yeah, TWRA was there, and they were gonna, you know, it was gonna be a big production for them. You know, they had camera crews and everything else,
Well, of course.
and them boys out there in their ice cream breeches and tassel loafers, and they got stuck. And finally, we called some more. We had to call a wrecker, and it took forever to get everybody out of there.
That pretty much.
That was kind of the end of my blasting career.
Did the blast ever happen?
No,
Oh.
that boy had that truckload of dynamite. I said, well, I'll get in touch with you later on. And he said, yeah, don't call me. Never saw him again. I mean, we were down there all day long.
It's a great place. I was learning
Yeah, it is.
years ago to fly fish, and so I'm kind of teaching myself. And then I got a call, a buddy of mine that worked for TWRA, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, or Tennessee Game and Fish, right? And he said the white bass are running. Well, it was right there at Rankin Bottom,
Yeah.
where they were running. And so I tie up these little kind of Clouser minnow things that I thought would, like a doll fly, which
Yeah.
is what I would use if I were spin casting. And I went in there and I couldn't hardly cast far. We was trying to, but oh my gosh, we caught white bass. That was just, I'll never forget that day. And I'm like, yeah, fly fishing at its best. That was fun.
Yeah, if you can catch it right.
Yeah.
That's like me and old Wes James. we got down there on the clinch, below Norris Dam.
Yeah.
And evidently they were running. Well, he'd got word, and we went down there, and they wouldn't hit anything but this certain kind of colored
Yep.
fly or streamer or whatever. And an old boy gave him one, and Wesley went home and tied, some copies up. And buddy, we caught white bass. Well, I just got part of it.
It's a good day. Good days we've had. We're talking about our friend Wes James, and I remember Steve, Wes James, others. Unfortunately, some wildlife biologists that we all worked with is no longer with us. But we would start conspiring about a dove field. So we getting on a dove field, and that you talk about hit or miss.
Oh yeah.
Either it happened or it didn't. Right? You remember those
Oh
shoots?
yeah.
Big shoot, a lot of fun. We used to go every year snipe hunting, and not the kind of snipe where somebody holds the bag, right? I mean, people thought that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Was out there somebody holding the bag, someone holding the stick. No, but we never saw one, so we started calling it armed hiking.
Yeah.
So we just walk all over the place carrying a side-by-side shotgun over. Never did see one, did we?
No.
I thought you hit.
We used to hunt grouse that way too. It was kind of an armed hike. Sometimes it was a forced march to get back home.
Through the darn rhododendrons.
Yeah, Lord.
Dave, you know where? I don't know. Steve might know. Up on the Nolichucky, towards Irwin, there's a place called the Devil's Looking Glass, and it's just a big
rock face.
Big rock face that kind of juts out there in the bend of the Nolichucky. And in fact, they do a lot of rafting up in there now. And I think there's still a company that rents out or picks up people that are rafting down the river. We used to go over there from the other side and come back up in an area that some people call California Fields, or I don't know why, but they did. But Mark and I used to go in there and bow hunt some. And we're in there one day and we're not hunting at the same place, but Mark goes crawling through there's something up here that's known as a rhododendron hell. And that's what the old folks used to call it. And it's places where the rhododendron and the laurel and stuff gets so thick you can't hardly get through it. And you got to crawl through it. So Mark's crawling through this place, and it's kind of on a game trail, I guess. And he comes out on the other side of the thicket, and he's staring at a black bear there.
I thought it was a squirrel. He was just making like a little noise, just a little bit of noise, and I'm like, well, there must be a gray squirrel up here in front of me. And I popped out of the rhododendrons, and there was a bear looking at me right in the face, like just a few feet away. He was scratching on a log or something there. But since then, I've had way more adventures with bears than that. Way more.
Yeah, Mark's had adventures.
I was working for Arizona and crawled down in a hole and denning cubs.
Big squirrel.
And had my little dart pistol and my little flashlight. And the hole was about the size of a groundhog hole, and I was a little guy, so they squeezed me down in there.
Hey, did you ever go up in?
There was a bear in there that wasn't asleep. She was not asleep and didn't have cubs, and she forced herself over my back and out.
Dang.
Wow.
Well,
And,
now I knew guys that did that for Pelton.
and there were the guys I was working with, that when I got out of the hole, they were laying flat on their backs, laughing, kicking in the air.
Dang.
And they said your feet just started going like you were swimming, and all of a sudden the bear popped out. She didn't leave a mark on me, but she didn't want to be down in there with me.
Not with you.
Yeah.
It's amazing where they will get to. You know, Pelton, I used to, when I was at UT, and several of the guys I ran around with or knew there were Pelton students or Pelton's, you know, master students or whatever. And Dr. Pelton his name's probably on every black bear study.
World famous black bear biologist.
Yep. Yep.
Do what, Mark?
World famous black
Yeah,
bear.
world famous. In fact, he's had projects all over the world, literally. And I knew guys that's in the wintertime, they would go do that very thing because up here, a lot of bears, females at least, they like to go up a tree and they'll find an opening that you wouldn't think they could get down in, and they'll get down in a hollow tree up 30 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And that's where they'll have cubs usually. And if they're happen to be pregnant at the time or when they go in there. And there were guys that I knew that had to go down those holes head first and to mark a bear, to check a radio collar, and sometimes you go in and you come out and it's not a big deal, but sometimes, like Mark says, the bear comes out first.
It gets kind of Western, as we would say out here.
Steve, also, there was another gentleman that we used to work with, Mike Sears was his name.
Yeah.
And Mike and Steve worked together when you were doing wood duck projects on on the Holston River, not far from where I live now.
Yeah.
And you he actually told me this first, but you went down you had to go down over the side of the bridge on the bank to find radio collars or duck marked or to check boxes. And you had some interesting experiences, as I recall, doing that.
Yeah, I had this one telemetry collar. Of course, back then they were real expensive, and they weren't just a stick-on thing like they are now.
They weren't as little either.
No, and I kept getting this signal off this rock cliff, big old face all the way down to the water. And I told Mike, I said, I can't lose one of them telemeters because they used to be real expensive. Yeah, this is back when they first started having them things on birds. And so I said, they must have been, a hawk or something got it. Took it up there and, it's up there on that rock face. And so we got us a rope. I told Mike, just start lowering me down. We went up on the top, and it was a big one, it was probably 100 feet or more. And I started bellying down through there. Well, there's always them little saplings, trees growing out of a rock face. Well, next thing I knew, kind of that rope got tangled up. So I started sort of catwalking, across that face, with my belly up against the rock. crawling sideways.
And he was pretty slender back then, I must say. He wasn't. He
Oh
was.
yeah, I was. And well, I hit a yellow jacket's nest.
Hang on, Ian. Here it comes.
And
Good.
buddy,
Well, don't where to go.
and nowhere to go. The rope, I couldn't get back up. It was tangled up. And them things went up my pants leg, in my shirt. It was eating me up. And Mike said, what you want me to do? I said, just turn loose of the rope. Kind of like that old Jerry Clower thing. One of us got to have some leave.
Knock him out,
You
John.
know, and so I didn't know where I was going, and I just fell. And thank God I didn't hit. That river used to be full of old, stumps and snags and stuff,
And not to mention rocks.
and rocks. But yeah, I think I had 36 stings.
You ain't lived until you've had that many up your pants.
No, I remember we got back to the motel, and oh man, I was woozy that whole evening, that whole night.
That's a lot of stings.
I got in one behind Dad's house, horseback. And my horse started bucking, and I'm like, why are you bucking? We were just riding on a logging road. I'm like, why are you bucking? Well, I was holding her up right there on top of those yellow jackets. And they swarmed up over her and swarmed up over me. And she
They get
finally-
angry.
and I rode her out. I won the Yellow Jacket Rodeo, but it was, I eventually came off. But my wife, bless her heart, has lived in Wyoming her whole life, and she has never once been stung by a bee.
Of any kind.
And I can't even imagine that.
No,
Wow.
no.
Steve, you told me too, we've talked about this before, but you've talked about when you was a kid, you guys used to find wasp nests to get the larvae out for fish bait.
Yeah.
And those things would be,
Just
stinking.
warm you.
Yeah.
Not yet. That's not yellow jackets. That's
Them big old red waspers.
big old red wasps.
Yeah, they're big on waspers, but boy, it was good fish bait.
It better have been.
But you just figured on getting stung, son.
Hey,
Oh, goodness.
I can't see the site. Is Ken Weiss still on?
He is. Ken is still
Well,
here. He's
There's
still
there's a fellow wildlife biologist
Yep.
that had quite some adventures in from. I remember snapping turtles with Ken. Ken would be out there collecting these snapping turtles. He come back to the office one day and said,
I don't mind making over
"Hang on,
No, I'll be
I'll
fine.
get there."
I'm sorry. Okay.
So he come back one day in the truck and said, "Dave, you've got to see this is the biggest snapping turtle I ever caught." I'm like, "Well, let's go look at it." We went out to his truck, looked in the bed of the truck. There was no snapping turtle.
Oh yeah.
That thing got some, and we always wondered what happened to that snapping turtle. It got loose somewhere. I-40 now. Kid
All
is
out about the pickup truck.
it would it would probably a car would get stuck on top of it if a car tried to get over it. But yeah, it got free.
That thing I don't know if it would have splattered or skittered, but it climbed out of that truck somehow, the bed of that truck. It was big enough that it could rear up and get a hold of something and climb. He said, "Where'd he go?" That's when we were in Lenore City, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness.
We caught some big old ones back in the day.
Yeah, we did. We've caught a couple.
Had one that nearly jerked me out of the bow of the canoe.
We were in my canoe. I had a 17 or 18-foot aluminum canoe, and Mark would come down to Middle Tennessee when I was down there, and we'd go bow fishing or fly fishing on the creek down there, and Percy Priest Lake, and we're paddling down what was Stewart's Creek, where it come into the lake, where it joined the lake, and there's a big old snapping turtle just kind of loafing there on the surface of the water, and he was, that big around, and we just kind of eased up. I said, Mark, grab him by the tail and see if you can't just pick him up, pull him in the boat. And Mark reached down and he grabbed that thing by the tail, and that turtle gave a big, heading to the bottom, and it about pulled Mark and the canoe under. We did get him in the boat, though.
We ate him.
Wow.
But he about jerked Mark right out of the canoe. He was heavy and stronger than we thought he would be.
You remember that one we saw up in the Boundary Waters that come rising up out of the depths? And I'm like, what is that? Like,
That was big, probably
you
an
could just
old.
see like this giant thing like coming up out of the water. And it's like, what in the world is that? Oh, that's the biggest snapping turtle I'd ever seen. Common snapper, not a alligator snapper.
Yeah, not an alligator snapper, just a common snapping turtle, which is plenty big. I've told some of these folks, we were at Disney World one time, and I looked down and they got water as features, just around some of the parks. And I looked down and there's a soft shell turtle just kind of swimming just below the surface. I mean, if you were out at the side, you probably never would have seen it, but I was looking straight down on it. And there was I swear he was this big around. Biggest soft shell turtle I've ever seen. And he was just cruising along there looking for something to eat. I know Ken caught a few of those when he was doing that trapping thing too. Because he said, those, you think about snappers being bodies, but those stern soft shells they can get their neck out and reach plumb around damn near to their tail to take a bite out of you. And
they hurt. They hurt.
They hurt. Yes, they do. They hurt. They all hurt.
So here, when I was working here for Wyoming, I had a kid come in and he said, I've got an alligator snapping turtle in my pickup truck. And I'm like, no, you don't. We live in Wyoming. We don't even have common snappers out on this end of the state. And he's like, well, come out to the truck. And sure enough, he had an alligator snapping turtle that somebody had dumped out somewhere. And he was about that big.
They just don't go that far north. But that's like down here, people, what do you call them? Bait Bucket Charlie or something?
Bucket Charlie. They just
down here we have that problem too. People move fish around. They think, boy, I'd like to catch these up near my house. And they just start bringing them in and dumping them out. And then the next thing you know, you got something that you never wanted in that body of water. And you can't do anything about it. Or they get tired of their fish tank and they dump it out. And then you find out you got snake fish in your creek or something.
We had a young man on Norris Reservoir it was cold, maybe February. A kid was fishing and actually caught an alligator.
Holy
really?
So that was a true story.
Yeah, TWRA came out and documented it. Yeah, some young guy. I mean, it was one is an alligator. Two, it was cold out. It just didn't seem to. Nothing seemed right about it. From it was documented.
Wow. On Norris.
Okay.
On Norris, and that's cold water in the summertime. You need to get up.
Yeah. Stretch my legs a little bit.
Yeah, I understand how that goes. I need to do that too once in a while.
Gotcha.
Oh, hang on to him, Dave.
I tell you, I sympathize. One day my balance I used to have good balance. I can't. I mean, I can just fall over. Let me help you there, Steve. You got it.
I did that the other day unloading a boat.
Here, I'll take you off screen for a minute, Dave. If you want to, just help him get it moved around there for a minute. I got him. I can see him backstage here. I'll wait till he gets settled. He's got not the same problem. I got similar. My legs ain't always steady anymore either. Especially the one that's not got any feeling in it. That's kind of hard to walk around when you can't feel your leg. His is for a different reason though. I have a message here. Hang on. Brenda was asking me another question. I'll have to ask these guys because I can't remember about something. Oh, there's Dave. There you are, Dave. I brought you back in.
Okay.
They give him a break. There was some. Oh, so Dave has gotten some notoriety of late. Dave is published. He's a published author now of sorts. Well, not of sorts. He is. It's just along him and some other people. Show us a copy of the book, Dave.
Yeah.
If you got it.
Kind of an interesting. It's kind of an interesting thing. There's a guy. He's the editor. And it's Southern Fly Tyers. You know, a lot of things have been written about Appalachia fly fisher folks over the years, but this book, it just came out. This book focuses on fly tyers and our story. So there's about 40 of us in this book where we talk about our signature fly patterns that we've tied, our story, how did we get into fly fishing, fly tying, a neat little book. And I will say this, so I talk about friends that I fish with, and Ken, who's on this podcast with us. Ken's mentioned in the book as well. So's Chris. If Chris Nichols, if he's still on the call, he's in it. Just people that I tie with and fish with. Just a little story. One of the little stories I told in here is really captured my imagination is the periodic cicada. It happens in the east, and it's a neat phenomenon. There are 13-year cicadas and 17-year cicadas, right? And so over, I guess, the past 5 years, we've been fortunate to have 3 different broods in our general area, right? Daytime trips, and next year, 2026 is one of those years. Neither will occur anywhere. Okay, it's just an off year. 2027 will have a hatch. One of the broods will be coming off in West Tennessee and then further north. Pennsylvania is a big place for them. We've just said anywhere, any place, when they're coming off, we're going to them. And it's like hunting as much as it is fishing, because you have to find them. You have to find because it's very localized. You watch the news media, you think it's some kind of locust plague and they're everywhere. Well, they're not. They don't go far from home, right? They burrow down right there, come back up the tree, 13, 17 years, their whole life cycle, and how they know to do that. It's just fascinating. I'm enjoying reading books, not necessarily fishing, but just about their life cycle. There's a a website, Cicada Safari. And people, just average folks will document and take a picture where they're at. This database is just building, has nothing to do with fishing per se, but it does to us. So we're trying to find where are they, and they have to be very close to water, right? They're horrible flyers. They don't fly well at all, and so they'll hit the water. And I mean, fish have honed in on this. So it's about 2 weeks of, the time they start singing, right? They make that noise. First you hear them, then you see them. Then if they're over water, that's where we're fishing. We tie up. I'll just show you quickly. We tie up. Here's some flies that we tie to imitate that. I know Mark and I were talking before we went live on Hopper Dropper. This is a big foam fly. It's neat when it happens. And so one of my flies in this book, Southern Fly Tiers: Life Stories of Those Who Tie Flies, is in this book. So we've talked, Tim and I have talked forever about our love of writing and reading, and I kind of took a hiatus, not meaning to. It just, life sort of got in the way. I took this took a back seat, but this has really rekindled that, right? Being able to do a little bit of writing. And so thank you, Tim, for kind of a neat little project. The money's going to, I'm not getting paid. This is just a labor of love, a volunteer. The money goes to Appalachia Fly Tying Museum and another project actually that these folks are working on in Lenore, North Carolina. Really neat group of people. Fun to take a hop.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Can you hold that fly back up? I made you know the fly. You had one tied up because. What did you name this? This is your creation, right?
Well, I have one in here. This is all a mess, but one in here called the Harold Poppinhead Cicada. That one's mine. And actually, I'm working on another signature pattern as well, and hope to get that published in a magazine one day. So I'm going to retire September 30th. So looking to do more designing flies, tying flies, and certainly fly fishing when that day gets here. So looking forward to it.
Hang on. Oh, Tina has asked about that website. What, Cicada Safari, isn't it, Dave? Is that what it's called?
It is. It's really neat, and you can download the app on your phone, and you can check this. It's really interactive. What people are adding, where they're coming off. Fascinating. Their life cycle is just fascinating, and all these people are really engaged with cicadas and follow them, and has nothing for them, nothing to do with water and fly fishing. It does for me, but they stay at these broods are so localized, and they stay at a place. You could imagine those that hatched this year, of course, then they've laid eggs. They're back in the ground. If a parking lot somewhere between now and 13 or 17 years, well, they're done, right? That bunch is done. Very, very sensitive to development. So, we had good luck around public lands. Chuck Swan Wildlife Management Area on Norris with TWRA. Those places that aren't going to get developed, that's their best chance, right?
You know, I never thought about cicadas being an issue with that subject necessarily because, you know, they come out, they do, you have them every once in a while. And back when we were growing up, I mean, we didn't need, people called them all kinds of things, but I don't remember anybody that studied them. But now there's this, I put the link up there for Cicada Safari, and Tina did too, looks like. And
Yeah.
but there's also Philip. My buddy Philip sent me a page where there is another group too that's tracking them, and you know, you can find maps to where they're brooding, and they've all got, I guess they've all got names now, the different areas that, I mean, you can have an overlapping, these are 13 years and these are 17 years, and sometimes they overlap, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
You know, and so it is pretty fascinating. And you're right. I mean, development really impacts them because, like, we have them here, and this summer when they popped earlier this year, I guess late spring, you know, they're just everywhere. So if you came in here next month and started bulldozing, and you built a big subdivision in here and paved roads and all that, a lot of those cicadas, that brood's going to get, I mean, I guess they could get damaged to the point where they're not going to recover. They don't lay but one egg, I don't think, do they?
They'll be at a point. So it's kind of neat, and some broods have just expired, right? But that overlapping is really interesting, Tim. That happened last year. That might have been Illinois, Wisconsin, up in there, and I know people who went. Because a 13 and a 17 year overlapping, I mean, people have done the math, and it's like going to be 300 and whatever years before that those two things collide like that again. So likely I won't get on the next one, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
probably won't be. I probably won't be here either for that one.
Yeah. But really, really neat how you know, when you fly fish like we do, you do learn a lot about macroinvertebrates. Never really studied that much in college, but you learn. Kind of a novice, but you know, we talk about Baetis and different mayflies and caddis and midges and kind of neat. You're learning something all the time, and that's stuff that I learned to be able to tie a fly in and fish it, right? So constant learning.
Yeah, and we talk about fly fishing, and you fish a lot with midges, and midges are like a brass ball on the end of a little teeny tiny hook with a little black, maybe a little black thread wrapped around it or yarn or something, and it's just a little bitty tiny thing. I mean, and that's a fly. Well, it's still called a fly, and you tie a lot of those, I think, don't you?
And they're real important in our tailwaters. That's a large source of food. Actually, you think, gosh, they're so small, but you know, fish will conserve energy and stay in a spot, and then just feed off those midges. So winter here, we're fortunate in the Southeast in that we fly fish year round. Yeah, there might be a day it's 25 degrees. Let's stay inside and tie flies. But there's no open season or close. You could fish year round, and that's really neat. So wintertime, I really tend to focus my fishing on midge patterns and really enjoy it.
You guys have some open closed season periods, don't you, up your way?
Me?
Yeah, I mean, in the state, there's not a lot down here where it's open year round.
We have a couple places out here that are closed seasonally for spawning.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
But you know, it's kind of hard to present a fly when you got 3 feet of ice on top of the water.
You can present it, and not like anything's gonna see it or hit. Yeah, we still have a little bit of spawning, if you will, here. And like Dave was talking about earlier, getting into those white bass, or or some people call them stripes. I mean, they're different things, but they're little white bass, and they run up. That's what they're doing when they're running up the river, if I'm not mistaken. And in some places, Norris and the Clinch River used to be one of the last places around in the southeast that had a walleye run.
Yeah.
The old river, the actual subspecies was native down here.
Right.
It was a river run walleye. It was different than the walleye up north where they were predominantly lake species. And that's something that's been largely lost down here because from, damming up certain rivers and whatnot. But Norris still has some run. They have white bass, and I think they still have some walleyes that run up. So when the water's down at the right time of year, you go up to up along Highway 25E where it crosses the Clinch, and that there's a long stretch up there, Dave, where you can, when the water's down, it's just one shoal after another up through there, and it's half mile or more, you can just see the whole open river. And at certain times of year, I used to see boats just tied up all along in there where people were probably mostly white bass, but I expect some of them
I never eat after I cook right away.
pretty fascinating.
You get tired looking at it.
It's interesting, some of these rivers, every blue moon, somebody will report, a muskie.
Yeah.
Up where you're talking about, Tim. I mean, that were there long before impoundment. With Norris Dam, the construction started in 1933. That's how the Tennessee Valley Authority got started. It was impounded in 1936. But yeah, and the state of Tennessee has actually, this is the southernmost range for muskie, and the state has been stocking those in Melton Hill, which is right around the corner from my house. Ken can see Melton Hill from his backyard. So
I was thinking every once in a while down here, I hadn't lately, but every once in a while you'd hear a story. Somebody down here would catch one. They were catching a few. Mark the Nolichucky had muskie in it years ago too. I don't know if you ever. I don't know anybody that's caught one. I've heard people talk about it. It's a little bit like a wampus cat, but they do actually exist, or they did in the Nolichucky as a native fish. Now, I don't know how big they ever got there, but and I don't know if there's any there now, but they used to be in that river. The way the Nolichucky
What you want and what you don't.
silted from the mining up north and in North Carolina, I don't know that some species like that, I'm not sure they live through all that over time. Mark and I used to catch a lot of feisty warmouth or red eyes in that water along with a fly rod,
And smallmouth.
And I actually pick up a few nice smallmouth once in a while.
Well, I mean, Nolichucky was like one of the top 10 smallmouth streams in the world for a while. They were catching 12, 13 pounders out of there.
Yeah, especially down below Greenville where the dam is down there for the and I showed that dam back. Guys might remember when Helene came through and had all the flooding here in the spring. I drove up through there and or last fall, and that below that dam, there's some stretches down through there that I never did go fish, but I always heard were really good smallmouth fishing country.
Well,
it's amazing. Sorry, Mark, go right ahead.
Tim was talking about the Devil's Looking Glass earlier. We used to pound them in there. 3-4 pounders you'd catch pretty regularly.
We used to go in there. I'd go
And
home
they
on-
jump 6 feet out of the water. It was like tarpon fishing.
We used to fish that river, and I'd go home, my arm would be so sore I couldn't lift it up to eat. And we'd be down there all day.
And
And-
we tied up Betts poppers.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
that we popped out of a plastic bubble pack.
Yeah, man, did they like those things? If you got the right ones, your little chartreuse colored popper with
Chartreuse with an orange mouth, and they
some rubber legs on it. man, and little red eye or warmouth or whatever they were. Man, if you catch them when they were on the nest up there along the right place, man, they would absolutely beat a popper to pieces. I mean, you'd have to change one every couple of fish because they'd literally break it. They hit them so hard they'd rip the paint off of them. It was they're so much fun to catch. Oh man,
warmouth.
they're not very big usually, but golly, what a fun fish.
If those red eyes, also rock bass, right? They're called. If they were 1 pound, you couldn't handle them. They are the most aggressive.
Really.
They'd take the rods out of your hand and just beat you with it if they could weigh that much. They're so aggressive. They are fun to catch. Those little creeks. That's good. That's good times, guys. Good times.
We had smallmouth and green sunfish and warmouth all together.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them are just wonderful fish.
We used to catch a lot of what we call pumpkin seeds along
Pumpkin seeds.
When we would fish down around Percy Priest and towards Nashville, we'd catch a lot of pumpkin seeds. Some of them pretty good size. And up here too, but we used to catch a lot of them along the rock faces and stuff up there on the lake when you get them in the right place. And anyway, it was good fun. Well, Dave, I tell you what, I would really like. I know it's getting late, probably. Well, it's 12:15, so you might need a break. But I tell you what, I'd really love if you'd come back someday and we can talk fly tying and a little bit more and talk about some of those adventures. And yeah, they're fish, Tina. If I could throw a picture up, I'd show you them. But they got a lot of orange specks on them. Their whole belly and their breast area is just. I don't know, Mark. You could probably describe. You're an artist. You can probably describe them better than I can.
Well, they got a lot of orange, and a lot of little turquoise little spots, and
yeah,
gorgeous little fish. Pumpkin seed. That's the actual name. I don't know if almost something
or not.
I think they're still Lapomas. I don't know if they've changed the genera yet. People like to do that just to mess with me.
I just that
Yeah.
makes me.
There's lumpers and splitters, right? They're all.
Right.
Yeah. That's part of what we do, right?
I mean, we went through all those classes and learned all those critters and all those plants and all those, whatever, and then they change it.
And now they've changed. Tina, hang on, Mark. Give me a minute, just a little bit of leeway here. I've got one pulled up here. Let me show it real quick since I've got it. There's probably better pictures, but there you can get an idea what they look like.
That's a pumpkin seed.
Yeah, it's a pumpkin seed. And they get brighter at certain times of the year when they're in when they're spawning and stuff. And as far as I know, I don't know what you said they were, but I mean they're I can't say that word. Centarctic. They're sunfish. Let's just let it go at that. But they nest, they build round nests and they lay their eggs and they guard them, but just kind of like the other, like the warmouth or the red eyes do, or
Beautiful.
Gills or
blue. Yeah, most of those fish do the same thing.
Long ears.
Long ear. Hi, Carol. Thanks for coming in.
And a lot of those species are actually, we use them as an indicator species, right? For good water quality. When you find certain fish in a place, hey, you're in good water quality, right? That's
Well,
it.
Dave, you're in here, so you can witness. You can vouch for this. Steve's not here, but I wish he was. But when we were in the office second office that I was in at TVA was at Norris, was the fish, what we call the fish lab back then, and it had a visitor. At one time, it had a visitor center up front with fish tanks and native species of all perch and all kinds of little, fish in it that Tennessee rivers have. And then in the middle, behind that building, there was a pond. Literally, it was a man-built pond, but it was rocky. It looked kind of like a natural pool of water. And we had every summer, as they did electroshocking and things, they'd bring some fish in and put it in the pond just for exhibits. And then sometimes they'd take them out and put them back in the river, or they'd bring in some more or whatever. And for a long time, we had a bunch of bluegill in there, and Steve had a pet bluegill. And what did he call him? He had a name.
Gilly.
Let
me hang one second. This is good.
Okay. This is a true story. Ken's still in here. He saw it too, I think. He could. I don't want to tell the story, but it was. They used to have. They had.
My apologies. Melissa's getting Steve fed.
Okay, good.
We'll continue on.
Anyway, we had this little bluegill, and there was something. It had a messed up mouth or something. I can't remember. Might have been born that way, or it might have got a hook in it at some point. I'm not sure, but he called him Gil. Steve got to where he would go out and call that fish, and I swear I'm not lying. He'd go out and whistle, or he'd go out and call that fish, and we'd go around the building at break or at lunchtime and find red worms. And we would pinch those worms into pieces or in two, and he'd take it out there and hold it out over that water. That fish would come running up to his feet in that edge of that pond and to be fed. And he could call it from it would come from the other side of the pond and come running over to where he was at.
And Steve could do hand motions, back up, and it would back up or come forward. It was so interesting. So
I swear.
We had management come. We're a little field office. And every once in a while, management would want to come, unfortunately. And it's kind of like, is that all you guys do here is train bluegill?
Yeah. Well, sometimes we do get breaks occasionally, but he said people didn't believe it, so they would come in and be like, "We want to see this trained bluegill." Word got out, just like not putting the plug in the boat. Everybody learns about it.
Steve, unlike Tim and I, Steve is a trained performer. He's a fiddle player, a mandolin player that performs in front of people. So it was nothing when Steve got called upon to say a few words and entertain a crowd. It was as natural for Steve as I've ever seen. So
it was an amazing thing while it lasted. Yeah. Unfortunately, they had to clean the pond out every once in a while, and I'm afraid that Gilly met an untimely fate, but which was really a shame because he worked hard on that fish. He did. He'd get real close, and he'd back it and he'd back up. He'd flip it a red worm, or he'd go like this, and it would come up closer, and he'd drop. He had it. It would work. The fish would work for him. And it was amazing, just like going to SeaWorld and seeing Shamu the killer whale.
Something like that, right?
Do what?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Don't say we're not trained performers. We can come up, we can make up stories with the best of them. That is the gospel truth. That is, I mean, like I said, people didn't believe it, and people would come to see it. That other fellow employees would be at our office for a meeting or something, and they all wanted to come out and see the fish perform. And it did. He could go out there anytime and get it to do its tricks. Anyway, Dave, I am proud of you, buddy. I'm glad you finally got in the book. I mean, one of us did anyway. And we're still working on it. Mark and I've got some things we're working on right now. Hopefully someday that'll be in print. But even if we have to print them ourselves, but we're going to get them out. And Mark is actually a published illustrator, Dave. I don't know if I got that book here or not. Mark is some guys that Mark knew did a book about black-footed ferrets a few years ago.
Wow.
And black-footed ferrets, they thought they were extinct, and then they found a few of them in Meeteetse, I believe is the name of it, Wyoming, and they captured the last few that were left alive, and they've got a little better hold on life, but they wrote a book about it, and Mark did all the illustrations in it. I'll have to show you that sometime.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be very cool. Did that have something to do with prairie dogs? Have I
Yeah. That's all they eat.
Yeah. Huh.
The only thing they'll prey on is it's one of the subspecies, isn't it, Mark? A prairie dog, or is it any prairie dog?
No, they eat blacktails and whitetails and
Okay.
Gunnisons and whatever. They did historically, at least.
What's the name of the book, sir?
The Broken Circle.
Broken Circle. I knew it had the words. I just couldn't remember how they fit together. I'll have to show you that, Dave, sometime. I don't see it. It's on the bookshelf back here, but
I got it somewhere laying right here.
I bought 2 or 3 copies of it and handed them out to like school children. I just wanted to. In fact, I sent one to Carol. She just left. She's in the chat as Karki, but she's a school teacher up in Michigan. And I sent her one couple for her classrooms up there for the children. I just thought they were, and Mark's he's in there. He did all the drawings. It's great. I mean, he's a really good artist, and
wow. I wanna. If I could, here's a pen. I want to write that down. I'd love to. Then when I go out, I'll get the book. When I go out there hopper dropper fishing, I'll have Mark sign it for me, and I'll have an autographed copy. I'll write it down if we've got the book handy.
Well, I got to find a copy of your fly fishing book, and I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute. But one of the reasons that's kind of a big deal is, like Dave, we mentioned a little bit in passing. Mark and I talked about it earlier. We live in a part of the country where people didn't really think about fly fishermen much. I mean, that was something you did in the Northeast or the northern tier of states, or in Canada or Alaska for salmon, or out west. But there's actually quite a few people that fly fish in this part of the world, and that's what kind of got Dave. Dave, the whole thing is it's about southern fly fishing, southern fly tying, and like Mark said, we used to go fishing and we'd fish at days all day long in places all over and never seen another fly fishing rod. People just didn't do it, or not many people. You just didn't see them out. Now, if you go to some place like the tailwaters or the Clinch River below Norris Dam, the tailwaters, or below South Holston Lake, there's fly fishermen. Those are fly fishing havens. There's people all over. So,
there's a little parking place. Ken and I and Chris, we've all been there. It's a tailwater of the South Holston, and just a little gravel parking lot. kind of, have a background in recreation. So I'm one to walk around the parking lot and look at license plates. Okay. And it's just amazing. South Holston's known all over the world. And they're brown trout that reproduce naturally. And you see cars from all over the country, in there that have found this place. We were after fishing the Big Hole in Montana. We went out on a boat. First time I'd really been in a drift boat. It was a friend of Ken's that was out there guiding. And so anyway, local guy that Ken used to raft with, and he told me about this guy. We went fishing. Anyhow, after we finished fishing, we went out here to this bar, and everybody that had been fishing and guiding, and we're all there. And someone said, "Where are you from?" I said, I'm from East Tennessee. And hush fell over the crowd. And a guy, there were two questions asked. How's Mike Bone doing? Mike Bone's a local guide here on the Clinch. I thought, wow. And the other question was, how's the South Holston fishing? I mean, I heard that in upstate New York. I heard it out west. How's the South Holston fishing? You say East Tennessee, someone will say, "Oh, the South Holston." You're right. I mean, the popularity, it's well known.
I mean, there's part of this is sort of a mixed bag of I don't know. I know the word I'm trying to say, but I can't say it. A lot of the fish that we're fishing for, in this case, if you're trout fishing, are what we would consider an exotic species. They're either rainbow trout, which is a western fish, or they're a brown trout, which is actually a European fish, if I'm not correctly.
Right, German. Yeah.
We did have natural fish in some of these creeks and rivers, mostly up higher, and that was the brook trout. But these fish do really well in some of our streams, and they've created these really great fishing opportunities for people. There's a place up it's in the national park now on Fontana that the town is no longer there. It's just, you see the foundations and the old mill. Can't think of the name of it right now, but it's over not too far from Fontana Dam. People used to come from all over the country and even parts of Europe to fish there because the creeks people still go up there and fish those creeks. Oh, Dave, you've been there. I'm pretty sure you have.
Eagle Creek, but there's one really famous, and I just about had it until now. I'm
I first say Maple. That ain't right.
Eagle. It's my goodness.
I'll find it. I'll just give me just 1 minute, folks. Eagle Creek's down
reservoir from there, but you can go to Fontana Village Marina and go, and they will take you across the lake to that creek. It's oh my gosh, I'm drawing.
I got it, Dave. Hang on just a minute. I'm going to show it to you. It's the one I'm thinking about is Hazel Creek.
Hazel, thank you. Yeah, Eagle Creek. Yeah, Hazel Creek is renowned. That's good call, Tim. Hazel, that's it.
And the town, what fascinated me, I went there the first time with Boy Scouts, and it's right up in here. And these creeks run down out of the Smoky Mountains, and now they empty into Fontana Reservoir, and Fontana's the Little Tennessee, I believe. Is that what they dammed up for Fontana? Is the Little Tennessee?
Right, and the Tuckasegee.
And the Tuckasegee,
are
right.
the two that form. Yep, you're right.
And there's a whole town up here that's no longer there. I mean, all the There's a few there may be a few of the buildings standing, but it's mostly foundations and stuff. And one of the most beautiful campsites I've ever been to, I believe, in the park. But you have to paddle to get there. You can't, or being a boat, I guess you can use a powered boat. But we paddled over in canoes, and the trip I made, and it was in these big pines, and it's just pine needles and flat, and a great campground and great campsite. But anyway, it was famous for that. And who knew? I mean, I didn't grow up around here hearing that parts of East Tennessee were a famous trout fishing spot. I never thought about that. And so it's amazing to me that some of the stuff that was out there, but that we missed. But someday, Dave, I always thought that there's a place up above Norris that's right now I won't be able to tell if it's the Clinch or the Powell side. I think it's near the Clinch. There's right by the railroad tracks up there. I used to drive by this place. I always wanted to stop. There's a big house that looks to me like something out of a Western, Mark, in that a hotel, because it's just a big square building with 2 or 3 stories, and it's rooms, and there's like little porches on half the rooms, and it looks like, and it's old and not there's somebody living there, but it's just like I always wondered if that wasn't a hotel sort of, and people didn't come in there to fish because it's in an area where some fishing areas and creeks. And it sounded like Wolfie's getting a little active there, the little bear dog. But anyway, Dave, this has been great. You don't know how much this meant to me to get you guys on today. I really hope you come back and we'll talk fly fishing just
I would love to, and I'll extend our thanks from Steve. Steve's getting a bite to eat. I need to actually get him home. So
okay.
Thank you all. Thank you for the hospitality, Tim. Great meeting, Mark. Good seeing you, Tim. Y'all take care.
And I'll see you in a few days. I'll come down and get my computer and stuff. And
good. We'll sit and visit. We'll sit and visit when you come.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you, and you have a great rest. Thanks, Steve, for me, and tell him I'll be down the scene.
And Dave, you got an open invite to come fish.
I'll be there. Thank you kindly. We'll be talking, Mark. Thanks.
See you, buddy.
Thank you.
Mark, don't go anywhere yet. If you've got a minute, I want to show you something after everybody else leaves. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end. It won't take but a minute. I'm going to end the show, but really appreciate those guys being here today. That's just touching the surface of some of the stories and tales we've heard. And
that was fantastic.
Hey, Dave, you need to go back and watch some of the show, Dave. I had guests here today.
Nothing.
What was that?
Well, Kaylin came walking in from the post office with some boxes, and I said, What'd you get me? And she goes, nothing.
Nothing. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for being here today. Thank my guests, Dave and Steve, again. I'll make sure to take them a box of donuts or something. But that was, these guys meant a lot to me. They do mean a lot to me. Like I said, Steve has taught me so much about wildlife work and how an agency runs. And Dave and I just used to talk about book writing and book reading and fishing. But we spent a lot of good time together on the lake, actually working. So we did work. But you always got to get from point A to point B. And when that's 150 miles away or 200 miles away in East Tennessee, that means it takes you a while to get there. And so we always had a lot of time to talk in the car. And so that's where a lot of these things, Steve told me many, many stories that we didn't even touch on about how they used to do things or great things they used to get to do back in the old days that were just really fun. So anyway, guys, thank you. Love y'all for being here. Anybody that showed up that was new today, thank you very much. Hit the like button, consider subscribing, and come back and see us. Anytime. I can't speak. Yeah, thank you, Ian. That's close enough, buddy. And believe me, there's more stories about that. Anyway, see you guys. Bye bye.